Hey everyone, Kyle Walker here. If you love cars, fixing things, or just want to understand your vehicle better, you're in the right place. I share hands-on tips, smart driving advice, and straight-up car talk without the fluff. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stick around till the end. You don't want to miss what's coming up. Let's get into
The presence
it.
of active safety system components for a modern car is gradually becoming a recognized standard. However, in general, this is a rather pithy concept, since there are already about a dozen such components. And all of them are designed to prevent accidents, taking control of the car in critical moments in their own hands. One of them is the directional stability system, which has appeared relatively recently, but is already implemented by most of the world's automakers in their models of the latest generations. Before we consider what VSC is in a car, let's define some terms. Steering stability is the ability of a vehicle to maintain the vector of motion, preventing the vehicle from tipping over or skidding. Under controllability is understood the ability of the vehicle at any time to move in the direction chosen by the driver. What is the VSC stability control system? In Russian sources, this system is sometimes called a traffic stabilization system. Actually, the original name, vehicle stability control, is closer to the second variant. The system's task is to counteract the forces that cause the car to slide sideways. In combination with the work of two other systems, anti-lock ABS and anti-skid TRC, such a complex of active safety allows you to significantly increase the chances of not losing controllability in situations that require from the driver not only an instant reaction, but also clarity of mind and the presence of relevant experience. All three components are quite rare, so in such situations the driver is assisted by electronic assistants, which always act at the same speed, relying on the readings of a number of sensors. The anti-lock braking system is activated when, as a result of the driver's actions, right or wrong, that's another matter, the wheels lock up under hard braking. In slippery road conditions, this almost always leads to skidding, and the task of ABS is to maintain a straight trajectory of the vehicle. The task of anti-skid system is somewhat different, to prevent wheels slipping during sudden acceleration of the car, most often when starting from a place. The traffic stabilization system is designed to maintain controllability of the car when entering corners, regardless of whether the vehicle is accelerating, braking, or moving at a uniform speed. Statistics show that approximately 1 in 6 accidents are caused by loss of vehicle control due to skids resulting from loss of tire contact with the roadway. The stability control system is activated in the following cases: when making sudden maneuvers, when driving over sections with different highway surface quality, when the vehicle understeers/oversteers. The principle of VSC operation is to brake certain wheels in order to stabilize the vehicle. But if ABS and TRC are aimed at maintaining the stability of the vehicle's position relative to its longitudinal axis, the VSC system prevents the vehicle from moving away from the vertical axis, which in automotive terminology is called yaw. Note that the abbreviation VSC is not unique to these active safety systems. Depending on the manufacturer, you can meet other names of VSC, ESMS, DSC, VSA, FDR, ESP. This, by the way, is another evidence of the fact that this technology is young and not constrained by the framework of certain standards. Principle of VSC system functioning. Usually sharp turns of the steering wheel in driving practice are used in exceptional cases, when it is necessary to avoid collision with another vehicle or collision with an obstacle/pedestrian. If the track is dry and the tires have sufficient tread depth, this is not a problem. But on a slippery road, such actions usually lead to skidding, to leaving a straight path. Not all drivers are able to regain control of the car in such situations, which usually leads to the car turning around and causing an accident. The VSC system is designed to prevent skidding by blocking the wheels from turning on the opposite side of the road. By taking control, it can correct driver errors, allowing the driver to complete the maneuver as if the road were not slippery. Consider the kinematics of side slip. Centrifugal force during turns at relatively high speeds causes the rear of the vehicle to move with acceleration in the direction opposite to the turn. If the traction of the tires is good, friction prevents the car from skidding. But if the speed of the car exceeds a certain threshold, or if the road is slippery, water, snow, ice crust, the value of centrifugal force is greater than the grip force. In this case, the rear of the car begins to tumble sideways, despite the fact that the steering wheel has already been returned to a position in which the wheels look straight. Read also how the car keyless entry system is organized and works. This phenomenon is what is known as side slip. Note that in certain situations, the front wheels can also shift. One more thing. If a side slip is initiated by a sharp turn of the steering wheel on a dry road surface, it is rarely prolonged, and usually the driver's reaction is enough to keep the car from skidding further. Another thing is a slippery highway. Here, reaction alone is not enough, as the only means for the driver to stop the skid is to turn the steering wheel in the opposite direction, which is not enough to level the car. Braking is also useless, as either both rear wheels or both front wheels are locked, which does not help the vehicle to return to its original state when drifting away from the longitudinal axis. This means that only the vehicle's VSC system can effectively deal with such situations. If the rear wheels slip, this phenomenon is called oversteer, and in this case the rear part of the car skids to the side opposite to the turn. If you remove the progressive component of the movement, then there is only rotation of the car around the vertical axis, which can cause it to turn. It is clear that such situations are deadly dangerous, even if we assume that the road is deserted and there are no oncoming cars. The car can simply drive into a ditch, which, when moving at high speed, will lead to its overturning. If the front wheels start slipping, the front part of the vehicle will skid to the side opposite to the turn. In this case, it is said about understeer, but the consequences will be the same, skidding with departure to the oncoming traffic, and possible turning, but counterclockwise. Operation of VSC system in case of oversteer. A standard technique to prevent the rear end of the car from skidding is a quick turn of the steering wheel in the opposite direction. But, firstly, it does not always help, and secondly, it requires from the driver a quick reaction, which in critical situations is not possible for everyone and not always. The system of directional stabilization acts in a different way, not using the mechanism of turning the wheels. In principle, the level of modern technology allows to implement this function. It is enough to remember about unmanned cars. Its tasks include the use of individual braking and throttle control. How does it happen? If the sensor signal detects the beginning of clockwise rotation of the car around the vertical axis, the VSC system is activated, closing the throttle regardless of how far the accelerator pedal is depressed. This reduces the rotational speed of the drive wheels, resulting in better tire traction in the contact patch. At the same time, the left front wheel begins to apply braking, resulting in a force that pushes the front of the car in the opposite direction to the turn, preventing rotation around the axle. And although the car may move out of its lane, the main task of the directional stability system will be accomplished. It will align the trajectory to a straight line, which will allow you to safely complete the maneuver. Trajectory stabilization in the event of understeer. If the skidding of the car is caused by slippage of the front wheels, it threatens to drive into the oncoming lane and the subsequent skidding of the car into the ditch. The physics of the process are somewhat different, but the actions of the VSC system are roughly the same. They are aimed at preventing skidding and leveling the car so as to allow it to move along the correct trajectory. This is done by closing the throttle again to increase the grip of the rubber on the road. At the same time, the rear interval starts to brake, which keeps the front of the vehicle from drifting, preventing side slip. Read also, when you can and cannot drive in reverse, and what are the penalties for violating the rules, how the VSC system determines when a side skid begins. We have already mentioned that the traffic stabilization system works in conjunction with other active safety systems. It includes the following components: sensors, information unit, ECU, actuators. Let's consider the operation of each of them. The VSC system uses 6 sensors, 2 of which are located under the center console of the vehicle. The first device is the angular velocity sensor, whose tasks include determining the moment when the car begins to rotate around the vertical axis. It is also called a yaw sensor because this movement of the car is called yawing. The English and international name of the sensor is yaw rate sensor. the second device included in the system of directional stability. Sensors is deceleration sensor, whose functions are to determine the amount of deceleration of the center of gravity of the passenger car in directions relative to the vertical and lateral axis. The steering angle sensor is responsible for monitoring the steering angle of the steering wheels, while speed is monitored by a speed sensor that is mounted on all wheels. The throttle position sensor is a sensor that detects the current throttle angle. Finally, the master cylinder pressure sensor's function is to track brake system pressure, which changes when the brake pedal is depressed. All data monitored by the sensors is sent to the onboard computer, which analyzes it, and, based on the information received, determines whether the actuators should be activated to prevent the vehicle from skidding sideways. There are two actuators in the directional stability system. One of them is responsible for individual braking of the wheels by changing the level of pressure in the wheel brake cylinders. The second one drives the throttle valve, closes it to reduce the speed of rotation of the wheels. As soon as the ECU detects that the car has entered sideslip, the corresponding warning light on the dashboard illuminates, and the skid prevention mechanism is activated. In addition to the light indication, an audible signal also informs the vehicle of the start of rotation around the vertical axis. So, the algorithm of the directional stability system can be described as follows. The onboard computer constantly receives data from the entire complex of the above-described sensors, analyzing them and deciding whether the yawing of the car has begun. If so, the ECU determines in which direction the skid has started, i.e., it should react to oversteer or understeer of the vehicle. If skidding has started, the throttle closing mechanism is immediately activated, which causes the wheels to slow down. At the same time, a control signal is sent to the hydraulic unit of the brake system to pressurize the correct brake cylinder to apply the brakes to the corresponding wheel. A warning light illuminates, and a warning signal sounds to inform the driver that a skid has started and the VSC system is activated. It should be noted that some car models have a VSC off button to deactivate the stability control system. However, this deactivation is not complete. In case of prolonged skids, the system is still activated, although with a certain delay. Many car owners, who prefer sporty style of driving, independently disable the system, but since it is associated with the work of ABS and TRC, they also become inoperable. So it is impossible to advise such modifications of the active safety system of the car. Since the work of the system depends on many components, the malfunction of any of them, sensor, control mechanism, ECU firmware failure, will lead to the lighting of the VSC check light. As a rule, in such situations, self-diagnosis of the problem is difficult. Especially note that the check VSC system light-up can also mean breakdowns that have nothing to do with the directional stability system, so in such situations you should contact a service center, where experienced and qualified specialists will determine the cause of the light bulb. In conclusion, VSC represents a significant leap forward in technology, offering innovative solutions that address current challenges in various industries. As we have explored, its unique features and potential applications suggest that it is not just a passing trend but a transformative innovation poised to become a standard in the near future. By embracing VSC, organizations can enhance efficiency, improve performance, and stay ahead in an increasingly competitive landscape. The future looks promising, and it will be exciting to see how VSC shapes the way we work and interact in the years to come. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more insights on emerging technologies.